Very pleased to present this discussion on the theme of branded entertainment, co-hosted by the One Club, with the moderator, Shanna Green. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm Shanna Green. I'm the editor of Brief Magazine, and I'm excited to be moderating this session about branded content. We've got some great speakers here. Alex and... no.
Angeledes.
All right, you made me laugh already. He's the CRO of Vice Media. We've got Pelle Sjoenell. He is the executive creative director of BBH. We've got Ned McNeilage, the creative director of CAA. And we've got Patrick O'Neill, who's the executive creative director of TBWA. So they're each going to be presenting one of their branded entertainment projects, and then after the presentations, we'll talk a little bit about them. So who's up first? Pelle?
Yes. Yeah, sorry. So I'm going to show you a case we did a while back, which was about a band called Oasis, a British band, who had success in the US a while back, but haven't really hit a big album, and collaboration with New York City, which was a client when I was at BBH in New York before I got to LA. And I have a little video that I want to show you about the basic idea and how it worked out. But the idea was to launch an album kind of with BAM. To launch an album by having all the street musicians, or lots of street musicians in New York, play the album before it came out. So you can walk around the streets and hear the songs, or you can get the fans to go record it and post it online. So I think there's a... That was the idea. You can do, I think it's the next one. Yes. Wow.
New York's a challenge, isn't it? And I think once you master that, you master anything.
A few days ago, I was out just making a little extra cash at Washington Square Park, and a young woman came up to me and she described to me that basically what they were doing is leaking 4 songs from Oasis's new album, and they were going to put them in the hands of street musicians. And I guess the idea was where the music would ultimately end up, they wanted it to start there.
Get off your high horse, lady. I don't need no ride tonight.
But I appreciate the guy that's got to make a living off playing tunes. We're all in the same boat, really, aren't we? My dream was to be big and all that stuff, but I think they're doing it for the right reasons. You get caught up in the hoo-ha of it all, when all it's about is the music, really, and the tunes, and I think that what they're doing is right.
Get off your high horse, lady. Don't need a ride or you change your mind. So come on.
I love Oasis, especially Wonderwall, because I played that song from 1995 to 98. And it paid my rent for 3 years.
Good,
wow.
So me too.
Me too.
I'm still paying it.
Well, I'm actually a member of their site, the Oasis.net forum. So I found it through their website. I saw the big news feed on their website. It linked me to the New York City website with all the times and everything. Then I just said, hey, I'm going.
Magical mystery, darling, good time, darling, good time, darling, good time,
First time hearing it, and it's not a Oasis performance, but that's a damn good song.
A bit jealous of first band that played High Horse Lady. I'm thinking we should rethink our version.
Good, man.
Yeah, actually, this is a shit idea, this, actually. Whoever fucking... I hate the record now.
Yeah, trying to make us look really bad.
Overnight, I've just gone, shit.
That's how we should have done it.
Yeah. So, yeah, you fuckers, nice one.
Get off your high horse, lady.
We're taking a little bit too much credit for the last slide there. It was probably the music that made that album. But the next slide. So this was a collaboration between brands, and I think that's what I thought was interesting with this for New York City, which was our client for tourism, who we had an open brief from, which was to make sure that things happened in the city and not that we didn't just make ads. That if anything like this would happen, it would be in the streets of New York. And for Warner Brothers, it was for them to sell albums. And Oasis, the band, it was for them to connect with the American audience, and being a British band, and to take music and street music seriously and be part of American culture. The way this worked was, I think, also interesting for us, because it had, if you can go to the next slide. The delivery system was not one format. It was people taking videos and taking pictures and posting. All the fans who happened to luckily be in New York, because Oasis was there because they had a concert. That didn't happen actually because one of the guys got thrown off the stage and flew back to England, and we thought this wouldn't work at all. But they were there, and they didn't have a concert to go to, but luckily they could hear the new album by going down to the subway, look on Google Maps where the different places were, go there and film it, and then upload the music that a lot of music industry has had problem with, the stealing of music and things being leaked earlier on. But these were not the real original music. This was a lady with a flute playing it, and it was a barbershop group singing the songs. So it was okay for Oasis, and it kind of was in a way a musical trailer for the fans to hear what the album could be like. But also, obviously, the Oasis, the Live Forever there was important that the fan forums spread this, and they were the ones who were actually our press, who really got the fans rallied around about this. And then for New York City, they had I think a 25% bump of their online traffic on NYC Go, which is a big thing for them, for tourism, to have lots of young people come there and understand that there's a website that you can also, from across the world, explore New York City. MySpace was the place where later on the documentary, the 18-minute documentary, was released, and obviously bloggers. And so I think why I think this is an interesting thing is that if you have different interests, which are different brands, and when they collaborate, they have to collaborate around an idea, and there has to be an idea at the core. Otherwise, there could be more of a transaction. A brand pays to be in something, or someone allows a brand to be in there, and I think there's a mutual interest around an idea that we were proud of in this case.
Great, thank you. So we'll get a little bit more into the platforms, especially once everybody's presented. But next up, I think we have. Oh, we have Ned.
Does that work? Yep. I'm Ned. Hi, everybody. So we all come at it from sort of different points of view, brands and entertainment. There's lots of different ways we really approach it. We're going to quickly run through one case study right now, but we at Creative Arts Agency we represent a bunch of different brands in entertainment. Most of our clients have agencies too, apart from Chipotle, advertising agencies. But sometimes for like a brand like Coke, we might partner with Pop Idol and help get American Idol up. Or sometimes there's this sort of partnership way of doing things, or we can extend IP like Mattel, where we'd love to get up a Masters of the Universe movie or a Hot Wheels movie, for instance. But then we also create original platforms for brands, and that's what I'm going to share today. And we've done this kind of with Branded Films and Sundance for Bing and others. But today we're going to talk about the next slide, Diageo. So we got a client. Diageo is a big liquor company, and they have a brand called, next slide, Jeremiah Weed. So this campaign is Jeremiah Weed. Ben somewhere. We did this a little while ago. But this is, I just want to share states like, whereas we do a lot of those kind of the partnership things, this is coming up from the opposite end. This is a brand launch. This is a little brand. And we actually did a deal with the Jeremiah Weed brand where we really reduced our fee up front and we took case volume kind of deal on this because we really believe branded entertainment's a way to grow a brand and sell a lot of product and do interesting things. So Jeremiah Weed, yep, so next slide. So this is the product. It's basically, it used to have a heritage with the Air Force. Was on bases for like 28 years as a bourbon. And this is a sort of a line extension, I guess, that started last year. And there's a Roadhouse tea and a lightning lemonade and a spiked cola. And our job was to kind of, basically create an option for people when they're reaching the cooler, so they didn't just have to grab a beer, and if Mike's Hard Lemonade's a little bit too soft, we created a more badass kind of platform. So really, so these were 5.8% alcohol, 24-ounce cans, you know, badass. So that's the theme running through all of this work, and as we, next slide please. We created a lot around this. This is really an in-progress study at the moment. It's not completed because we're about to go out and pitch a bunch of stuff in February. But we've done quite a lot of elements. So we did some music partnerships and we did a social media kind of program off this badass idea, and we did a number of events. But the core of it was really, there's some badass films that we shot and some trailers that we cut around that. And our process for moving towards a television show with this content. That's what I'm going to quickly share now. So next slide. So first of all, we knew that the ultimate goal for us was we want to do a great sort of marketing platform for this brand. We want to make lots of interesting films and content. Content's king. We want people to come and have a look. But the ultimate goal was always we would love to get a show up. We would love to pitch a show to networks. So to do that, one of the things, you know, networks don't want to buy a show from brands. That's our experience. They want to buy a show from producers and showrunners with track records. So we enlisted, rather than commercial director, Casey Neistat, who had the Neistat Brothers show on HBO and was the exec producer of Daddy Longlegs, Spirit Award, just an up-and-coming, emerging kind of show creator who happened to have a gun in his top drawer and is a boxer as well, so he felt right. So the next thing, so we went out and shot a bunch of films called, these were badass films, and we ended up with 8 of these, and they were distributed actually. We had paid media trailers that I'll cut to in a moment, but some of we filmed an alligator wrestler and an arm wrestler and a bull rider and a guy who makes 10-pound burgers. This is really middle of the country, just badass male network kind of stuff, you know, but it was pretty fun. And next slide. So we went out and shot all of those. As we did it, Casey also, because he's a show guy, we didn't just shoot 8 films, we shot 40. We knew that we would, you know, end up with a certain amount through a marketing platform, but we really wanted a lot more material as we move forward. For the campaign component, we had trailers and digital sort of paid stuff to drive viewership. Next. And we, you know, we ran it through our social media page and, you know, added several 100,000 fans during the course of this. And it was a lot of fun, and people were very sort of engaged with this content, sending in their own badass stories. Next frame. But it's really, I guess, the core, and we've seen this on a few of the platforms and campaigns that we've really been pushing into lately. We used the opportunity to, as I said, shoot much more material. So the next slide, 40 guys, you know, pit masters and chess boxers, a guy who, chess boxing is basically you box one round, play chess for the next. You can either win by knockout or checkmate, and this guy's not that. This guy's like 7 feet tall, but not that good of a boxer, and the big Russian guy's kicking the shit out of him, but he checkmated him, you know. So there's a bunch of really fun stories, and out of that material, then we got an additional editorial budget, and we essentially cut a pilot. And Casey also documented himself throughout this trip. So we are, in February, we're going out to 8 or 9 networks in February with a show. I can't talk about the name of it, but it's based off this kind of badass platform. And the next book, we'll see if it's a success or a failure. But it's more and more, there's just interesting ways to push stuff out there. And Kate, we're not at the table, we actually won't be out there with him pitching that show. It's literally, we got a show creator and his agent. they are going to sell this, and they have Casey has an equity stake in the show with the brand, and it's an interesting model, and I think hopefully it's a good way forward. And it's just the clip we're going to play quickly is it was from the campaign component. It's not from the show, but it just gives you a sense of the people. That's it.
Thank you. That is the most I've heard badass outside of a Samuel L. Jackson movie. All right, next up we have Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex Angeledes from Vice Media, and we got a really interesting cross-section of people here. I represent a media company, a media company that's kind of exploding right now. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Vice, I'm going to take you a little bit through who Vice is, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the Creators Project, which is a massive platform that we created that speaks to, you know, kind of our inherent core of branded content. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about Vice for those of you who might not know us. We started as a free magazine in Canada about 16 years ago and have grown into a global company in over 30 countries, producing about 60 minutes of original content every day of high-definition video content. It's a young adult-facing company with a very unique, authentic voice to a youth consumer, which makes kind of branded content really interesting conversation for us to have. It's how we've built the company. Next slide, please. The press has really kind of started to notice us and take off a little bit in terms of where Vice is going and the types of things we've been able to do. And I think it's the authenticity of Vice and the way we speak to our audience and the kind of content that we create that has been kind of the engine for this growth. Next, please. And this just gives you a little bit of sense of what Vice has turned into for those of you who knew the magazine. It is still the magazine, and it's still it's about 1 million circulation around the globe, and it's still edgy, and it's still fun, and it still tackles subjects that can sometimes shock and make you laugh or cry all at the same time. But it's become much more than that. It's become linear television shows with a show launching later this year on HBO. It's premium digital networks on YouTube's platform. It's our own digital hubs. It's record labels. It's film division. So just again, just a sense. It feels like a sales pitch. I'm really sorry about that. I didn't realize how much this was going to sound like a sales pitch. I apologize. But it's big and it's multi-platform. Next, please. So let's just talk for 1 second. I'll set up the Creators Project, and then the video really does it justice because what I'm going to say can't even capture, you know, kind of how fantastic this project is. But you know, it's an interesting kind of combination, right, of Intel and Vice. You wouldn't intuitively think of, you know, this edgy kind of young adult-focused media company working with a brand that, you know, is a little bit more traditional or a lot more traditional than an Intel. But they had a challenge. They had a bit of an issue. And their issue when they came to Vice was they have technology that powers everything young people do, but young people, Gen Y, millennials, don't really have a you know, kind of feel for the brand at all. They don't know anything about it. There is no affinity for it. How do we create some sort of platform, some sort of way to connect with young people so that Intel can kind of enjoy some relationship with young people and kind of build the brand that way? And the collaboration kind of came together, and it's sort of the model of how Vice works, which is to collaborate with a brand, figure out what the passion point is for a young consumer. And in this case, we looked at art and technology being such an important part of how art is created these days, and created a platform for it that can live both in a digital world, in a linear world, and experientially as well, so that we could really emotionalize the Intel brand. And that's really kind of at the core of what's been so successful about this. So we'll take you a little bit through the Creators Project. Let's take a look.
The Creators Project is an unprecedented global arts initiative showcasing artists, musicians, and filmmakers who are using technology to push the bounds of creative expression and enables them to realize new artworks. The Creators Project is a media platform, including an active website featuring daily editorial and documentaries on the world's most compelling artists, hailing mostly from the United States, UK, Brazil, China, Korea, France, and Germany. To date, more than 17 million people have visited the site, and the video content has been viewed more than 80 million times. The Creators Project also has a traveling event series featuring films, panels, installations, and music performances by top bands and DJs from all around the world. This year, the Creators Project has expanded to be even bigger, reach broader audiences, and be more participatory. This spring, we launched The Studio, an arts initiative supporting the development of technology and providing artists resources to produce and distribute original artworks.
The Creators Project, they encouraged us to kind of think bigger, and this was already on a massive scale.
The Studio enables collaborations between artists from a variety of creative disciplines and showcases the works to global audiences on the Creators Project website and traveling event series. The first works debuted this April at Coachella, where we reinvented the festival by creating groundbreaking visual experiences advanced by technology. Selected artwork from the festival and additional work is now traveling as part of our event series, touring across Paris, Lyon, Seoul, Beijing, Sao Paulo, and back to New York. The 2011 events have attracted more than 350,000 attendees to date. The Creators Project is partnering with international cultural entities to host once-in-a-lifetime, multi-day events like Nuit Sonore, La Gaieté, Grand Palais in Paris, Biennale in Sao Paulo, Platoon in Seoul, and 798's UCCA Gallery in Beijing. Finally, our event series will return to New York, where we'll take over an entire neighborhood in Dumbo, Brooklyn, and feature the world premiere of Karen O's Psycho Opera and all original studio works created this year, and much more. Together, Intel and Vice have created an unprecedented global cultural movement and are enabling artists to push creativity to a new level. Welcome to the new era of creativity.
I wish I could take any credit for that at all, but okay, I'll take it. It was all my idea. I'm just kidding. For those of you who know my bosses out there, it was not. So this is just kind of a picture of the interface of our digital platform. We can go on to the next slide. It's garnered tremendous awards from critics, magazines, the like. The thing that we like about with content at our core and branded content at our core is creating long tail assets that travel, getting picked up in the press, creating content from these platforms that can then travel and create kind of greater affinity. And kind of the new metric in a world of increased focus on efficiencies for brands is earned media value. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway for brands when we talk to them about building platforms together from the ground up, is creating something that is compelling to an audience, that travels throughout a distribution, whether it's social, whether it's linear, whether it's digital, that creates earned media value that makes your ROI numbers kind of go through the roof. It's just critically important. So that's something we're particularly proud of. Next. Again, this is just some kind of nice things that Ad Age said about us in terms of seeing a collaboration between a company like ours and a company like Intel, and it was, as they say, blazingly ambitious, but it worked. And then the results again speak for themselves in terms of, I think that the bottom line is historic brand lift for this segment, and that's really at the core of how we try to build our business. Next, please. And then this is just a couple of slides to give you an example of some of the work that came out of the studio of the Creators Project, which we just found visually arresting, so I thought I would include these in here so you can kind of just scroll through. I don't know if anybody was at Coachella as we kind of get to some of the pieces from Coachella, but there was some pretty cool stuff. We did it with Arcade Fire that you'll see in a second, that with the balls dropping. We also created the Jumbotron together, so. And there it is. So thank you very much. That's Vice and Creators Project.
Does this work? Always have technical problems. Is this working? Yeah. Hi. I thought I'd show the agency I work at, just so you guys know what Shy Day looks like. This is going to be a very Los Angeles presentation. I'm going to share with you guys the Pacific Standard Time content story. I think it's a little bit about the inspiration of Los Angeles and sort of the world around us in LA and everything. And one of the things that we're really proud of in Shy Day is our architecture. This is Clive Wilkinson. If you know Clive Wilkinson's work, he produced this wonderful building that was called one of the top 10 coolest places to work by, I forget who did it, MSNBC UK or something, but it was a global point of view. People still think we're in the Binocular Building in Venice now, even though we moved in there in, I think it was 1998. But anyway, that's our building, and that's a little story behind it. If you go to the next one, please. I'm not talking about replay today, but I snuck in another, I wanted to do two. We have Gatorade as one of our brands, and we created content on Fox Sports Network for Gatorade called Replay, and there are 3 seasons. The first one's on football, the second one is hockey, and the third one is basketball. And the premise of this content was it's almost like a high school reunion meets a makeover show with sports. And teams that had a tie game back in high school or college got back together many years later to replay, retrain, and it was a great content piece for Chiat. So I'm done plugging Replay. We can move on to Pacific Standard Time. On to the next one. And I'm going to tell you a little, it started with this idea, the Getty Foundation. Pacific Standard Time was conceived 10 years ago. And they got all the museums of Southern California together, 67 total. So LACMA, Hammer, MoCA, all of them are part of this. And they named it Pacific Standard Time before we got the project. I'm like, why is it called Pacific Standard? Can we change the name? No, we can't change the name. So there's the name. The effort, the initiative was really about celebrating the birth of the LA art scene from 1945 to 1980. So the logo became a big part of the communications. I don't know if you guys have seen it around on all the pole banners, but we had to convey something about Los Angeles and the idea of time. So those two concepts together, I'm a local Angelino and thought, you know what, why don't we believe that Los Angeles is the epicenter of global pop culture with entertainment and all art and everything here. We kind of believe that, and we sold that into the clients, and the idea was really about the sun being the center of the universe, and the sort of the time and the sort of mid-century inspiration together became this logo. The pink, I can tell you the story later. It takes too long to get why we ended up with magenta. It was something else before, but it stands out. Okay, so the next slide is really part of the challenge. If you look at Southern California, this is really LA. Pacific Standard Time doesn't exist in one place. It's in 67 places. So one of the challenges was like, how do we get people to know about this event that's happening all over the city all at once? And another challenge was we wanted to get people that normally didn't go to museums to go to museums. It's a cultural event. It's design. It's all these different things. It's not just art. And typically museums just show a piece of work by, let's say it's Hockney, and it's like David Hockney at the Hammer, and it's all over the place with one image, and that's it. But we couldn't do that because it was multiple artists across multiple museums. So our challenge was, how do we get people not only to know about it, but go to the museums that never go and market it in a completely different way. So if you go to the next piece, this is a video that shows Ed Ruscha, Saul Bass, a lot of the LA artists, part of Pacific Standard Time, John Baldessari, Hockney, the case study homes, and this is Pettibon, the guy who did all the Black Flags. Like, he kind of really made it right at the end. He was like 1979 or whatever, the cutoff date of 1980. So all these artists, I was kind of surprised when we first got the assignment. Like, these artists really still inspire all of us now. They're completely relevant. Yeah, they're back in 1945 to 1980, but a lot of the ideas we'll see in a creative department at Shire are like inspired by that era. Like, why don't we do something that's about that inspiration? So when we came time to create content, this is a very loosely sort of inspired content that was all about inspiration. So the people that are inspired now by those artists then became our sort of blueprint for content. So I'm going to share with you 3. They were films that were people currently working or that were inspired by Ed Ruscha, John Baldessari, and then the last one are Charles and Ray Eames. So if you just play the video, then I'll explain more.
I guess what I've realized is I'm afraid. What if I go inside the museum, look around at all the art, and I just don't get it?
If you don't like something, you just say, I don't like it. That's fine. Art should be fun.
My favorite experience with art is visceral, where I see it and it just makes me go, oh, 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 look at that, oh. Something great happened right there.
A lot of people think LA is just eyesore after eyesore, full of mini malls, palm trees, and billboards. So what? They don't know the LA I know. The good, the bad, and the ugly about LA. The good, the Forum, the 5 Torches, the Cockatoo Inn, Raleigh Hut, Watts Towers. One man's eyesore is another man's paradise. The bad, the traffic. Each freeway has its own personality. The 405, bougie traffic. The 110, that's gangster traffic right there. It's a difference. You gotta know where you at. Coming from South Central Los Angeles, you gotta use what you got and make the best of it. What I love about the Eames is how resourceful they are. Charles and Ray Eames, a husband and wife team. Before I did rap music, I studied architectural drafting, and one thing I learned is that you always gotta have a plan. 2 days to build this frame. 2 days. Got off-the-shelf factory windows, prefabricated walls. They was doing mashups before mashups even existed. It's not about the pieces, it's how the pieces work together. You know, taking something that already exists and making it something special. You know, kind of like sampling. In a world full of McMansions, where the structure takes up all the land, the Eames made structure and nature one. This is going green 1949 style, bitch. Believe that. Who are these people who got a problem with LA? Maybe they just mad they don't live here.
I'm a little biased. So that was the Ice Cube one was particularly impactful, I think, because this piece of content had some news in it. No one really knew he was a architectural draftsman in college. I mean, who would have thought that? We found that out, and we're like, we definitely have to make that a part of this piece, and it became what a lot of people ended up talking about on all the social media networks we shared it on. So the next video is where this content lived. It's a visualization of what we created for, it was a website, but it also had an engine that drove a thing called My Time that drove all the museums based on interest. So you could put your interest in, it would connect you to museums that you'd be interested in. It was also geolocated. So it lived there, so that was part of the idea as well. If you go to the next slide, these are the print ads and posters, and so the static medium part of the campaign. The directors, Jesse Dillon and Dave Myers, both acted as director and photographer on this project. It was kind of cool. They got to do both. And it was very much inspired by the sort of George Lois Esquire magazine covers from the 60s. We're like, we gotta be inspired by this too when it comes into that. So all of that, I'm gonna go to the next slide. This happened to be last week. Sorry. This is at that One Club event. George Lois happened to be there, and I'm like, he's just coming out of the bathroom. I'm getting a picture with this guy. Anyway, so that's Pacific Standard Time. It's a case study that's still in the making. It's happening right now. If you go to LACMA and check out the California design thing, it's a really good one. But it's still up and running, and be sure to check it out. The attendance records have been attendance has been pretty good at getting people that never go to museums. So far, this type of content and this way of connecting pop culture and that time period together to get people interested in art's been pretty successful. But I'll have a case study, about 2 months. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Those are some fantastic presentations. What really struck me that I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about was some of them were very driven out of the content, that you wanted to get the content out there, so you partnered with somebody, say the Creators Project. And then some of them were very driven out of a campaign. You wanted to promote Pacific Standard Time, and so you built that around it. Speaking more about branded content, could you say when something is branded entertainment or when it isn't? How is that different than a promo? Like for you, can you talk about how that concept originated and how that was different?
Sure. So I mean, the core element behind it is are you entertaining the consumer? And because we target a young adult consumer who, have the biggest bullshit detectors, out there, it's about creating something that's going to resonate with them, and that's the core of it. And then you can weave your brand messaging in once you have them connected with you through this content. So, we tell brands all the time that brands need to think like media companies and think like entertainment companies, because with this consumer in particular who's being, kind of deluged by advertising coming from all different places, they don't mind advertising, they just don't want to be advertised too overtly. So you can weave the brand in it once you create some affinity by sharing some piece of content long form that resonates with them, that creates some passion and some affinity.
Neda, I wanted to ask you about the same thing as well, because you had, it was very much about this content, but it was a little bit more like the Creators Project.
I just think the branded content is creating stuff people actually want to watch. I mean, it's really simple. It's just not force feeding them and buying media and buying eyeballs. It's stuff that people can seek out and participate in and want to watch, and brands who put that out there and think of themselves as a network, people will be rewarded, and you can integrate product in interesting ways or just thematically align stuff to a brand's point of view. But more and more, it's the way. You want people seeking you out. You want to stop spending as much money trying to buy them and just have people want to see what you provide.
And each of these campaigns seem to be geared toward a younger and honestly predominantly male audience. Do you feel like branded content is better suited for that type of audience, or does it just happen to be these campaigns?
Ray Eames is a woman. Sorry. No, I don't think so. I think it just happened to be what we chose. There's a lot of branded content for ladies out there, I think, right? Or for everyone. I just can't think of any right now. The Real Housewives, that doesn't count.
No, I think it shouldn't, it isn't everyone, it's about brand behavior. It's how do you interrupt or do you give something back by the time you spent with their brand. And I think that goes for, I guess there are brands for everyone, unfortunately everywhere. So I think it's more about how you engage people and how you get to make them come to you because you have something to actually give them rather than sell on them and treat them like human beings.
We do work with, we're working with brands like Weed or Mitchum, hardest working person in America, that are very male driven, but then we also do, we also work with Mattel on a Monster High thing for sort of, young tweens or, so it's, just good content is what people want.
And,
I was just going to say, I was going to build off of Pelle's point about the idea. I think if the idea is really compelling, it's not, I mean, there's a lot of content out there that doesn't have ideas, that doesn't really resonate. If it has a great idea, it has to start with that. It's sort of an obvious thing, but if it's not good, like scratched on a piece of paper, like the replay concept was really amazing, just on a napkin almost. And it happened to be good content as well, but not everything that you think of necessarily is great or resonates because the idea isn't really compelling, or if the brand is forced in or it feels really contrived, it never really works either. The seamless nature of all these case studies seem to be, why I think we're showing them, because you can't tell the idea from the content from the brand. It kind of is all one because the idea just holds it all together. And that's what's resonating, I think, even though they're all guy stuff.
I think that's a great point, that obviously it has to feel organic. So if you're presented with an opportunity where, something just doesn't seem to be a good fit, what do? Do you build something else around that? Do you put it aside?
You just go do it anyway. No, you don't. You don't.
Think of another idea.
I think that there's lots of opportunities come at brands, and it's sometimes it will be people with, when the brand's a buyer and people are coming at the brand with an idea or a property or a thing and say, hey, this could be a good match and integrate into this somehow, activate. And then other times, we're trying to sort of create original, platforms for brands, because I think to Patrick's point, on the idea point, I think good branded content usually starts with a sort of a strategic goal from a company. There's something they want to achieve, and you go about sort of answering that. And sort of entertainment is not always the answer, but sometimes that is the answer. And you need a great idea off a great sort of problem, and you need to solve it. And more this kind of entertainment is a way. I don't know. Well, we just keep getting those problems. So.
Yeah, I think for Vice, we start and end with our audience. It's really about the content that they want to see, and we have a really good sense of that. And sometimes a brand might not be able to fit in that, but I think it's really about having a voice. So if you're a media company like ours and we have kind of a unique voice, there are ways to lend that voice, to companies or brands that might not seem, necessarily, endemic to what you might think our voice is in a certain place, if that makes sense. So, Intel being a great example, we can easily, pick a movie studio or a video game or somebody who's got a little bit more of kind of an edginess to their brand. But we can also, talk to a brand that has, a little bit more conservative values, and we can kind of create a voice with it that's going to resonate with our consumers. So but it's first and foremost what the content that the consumer wants and what the audience wants.
Could you talk a little bit more about Intel and how that came to be? Was the idea, from Vice, like, we're going to put this out, or did Intel come to you and say, we're looking for an opportunity, let's expand on that?
It was really a collaboration. I think Intel, came to Vice with a challenge, and we together, figured out what the, we had some ideas, but it wasn't that they plugged into something that we were already thinking about. It was really kind of diving into their business and what their challenge was, and figuring out what was going to be that kind of centerpiece, or what was going to be that theme that was going to resonate potentially for them with our audience, and we found it between art and technology.
And actually I want to ask you a little bit more, Peter, about how that relationship originated, putting that entertainment with those brands.
Drinks. I'm just kidding. Really, we had all those artists from all those museums to choose from, and I think what we did was we talked to lots of different types of people, musicians, artists themselves that are inspired. So we started with, who could we find now that we could work with that's really inspired by the actual art from that era? And it was such a wide open brief, it became really fun to collaborate with that content. So if it was coming out of an inspiration of making the connection between Ice Cube and Eames, it's really unexpected. You would never think that someone from the rap music world would appreciate architecture. Just not the first thing you'd think the connection would be. So the unexpected connections became what the narratives were in all those. Like, it turned out Anthony Kiedis always wanted to meet Ed Ruscha. We're like, okay, we know exactly what you can do to do that. And it turns out, there's more of that story. They both had pieces of art. One was a song, and one was a work of Boucher's that were named If. So they bonded over that. So we ended up capturing their meeting on film. That ended up being what that one was, and then just Schwartzman's just, you know, wanted to do something crazy. So they were all really different. The static medium piece of it was just, you know, do something iconic with the art that feels like it represents inspiration. So it was all about different worlds coming together from different time periods in an unexpected way and make people appreciate art from a completely different way. Typically, art's like a school field trip or a family outing, or you have to go, or I always need to check that out, unless it's like Alexander McQueen's show in New York or whatever. So doing LA art museums in a new way was something all the filmmakers and all the different artists and the talent wanted to be part of, because everyone wants to be connected to design and art and architecture. So that was kind of easy, but it was all over the place, I gotta be honest. So the fact that we got here was awesome. How's that for an answer?
It always starts with drinks. So talking a little bit about platforms, especially with the Oasis piece, I did want to get back to that. You know, digital's obviously played a huge component in all these pieces that we're looking at today. Do you feel that digital has helped expand on branded content, and, you know, kind of talking a little bit about not only the role that it played in each of your projects, but the role you see it playing in branded content growing?
Well, for sure. I mean, it really changed everything. Before it was locked, you had to go through a certain, you know, to get anything on air. It was a lifetime of a career to get something to get there. Now you can, you know, access it anywhere. And I think what great things do is that you talk about they travel, but it's not. I think what we have, we're in advertising. We have lots of time. We focus on who what the target market is. Nowadays, it's about what the target is, because we give to someone who's actually a distributor of content. So I think you have to start thinking about what is in it for them to spread this. Why am I looking good sending this to my friend, or why would I rally people around this cause or this thing? And I think that's a great thing to think about when you make things, because it has to have that value. You can't just think of how can I sell this. There's not an end there. So that changed completely, and I think that it's just become much more fun. It's much more. The palette is so much larger. It used to be a certain type for us, certain types of formats that we could work within, and now we can reinvent formats. We can come up with new formats, and we can. So I think just it's about embracing it. And there was a time, I think, and I really think it's past, where we were kind of locked in an old system of media and in a new. And I think now it's just about inventing and keep going, and just not be expected. I think it's expectedness.
I think you can be more unexpected now. You can do things you're not even allowed to do on television. But it's also, you know, it's obviously just the engagement and participation kind of aspect, and people can share stuff. And we worked on a Mitchum campaign, Hardest Working Person in America, and what was amazing was we went out there with sort of stimulus. We put out a series of films by Albert Maysles, great filmmaker, asking, you know, who's the hardest working person in America, and it was a competition component, and it had a show on Sundance. But the amount of films that people fed back that were just incredible quality and really, really moving could have been a show in its own right. And I think, you know, that just wasn't being done before either, and just the fact that it's obviously much more of a conversation, and you never know. Your brand's being defined by your audience to a degree, which is really interesting these days.
I'm just going to say, like, because there's so much content out there, it's great to do it, and I love doing it, like, Pelle, what you're saying, like, but there's so much you're competing with every day. As we know, there's videos and all kinds of content out there across platforms that it has to be really, really good. I mean, it's sort of an obvious thing to say. There's a lot of stuff that either is great that no one sees because it's too long, or they won't sit through the whole thing, or it's just not that great to begin with, just like, you know, television and movies and anything else. So the standards are higher actually for the idea, because it has to grab you right away, otherwise you're not going to watch it. So it's really upped our game, I think. I think the storytelling in the 30-second, 60-second formats of traditional broadcast media, that everybody, at least that I've in the industry, has gotten a lot better at storytelling. Because you kind of have to be. But just because you can make it 7 minutes long doesn't mean it should be. Because there's a lot of really, you're like, cut, anyway.
Because we used to fight for seconds, wasn't it?
What's that? Used to fight for what?
Fighting for seconds.
For seconds. Oh, I know.
30 or 60.
The 45 seconds commercial is actually the perfect length, I think.
I wanted to ask a little bit about, you're saying making your own platforms and growing them and how that's changed everything. So how does this play into a bigger campaign as far as the platform, plays into your digital and in your on-air? When somebody comes to you, or if you're driving that campaign, are you looking at it as a piece of that, or are you looking at it as its own thing? What's the role?
It's got to be whole. I think generally a lot of our best stuff anyway is very holistic. You start with an idea or a theme or something that runs through everything, and then it should be able to go everywhere. If you're using paid media or traditional units, it should drive to a larger idea, and people should be able to participate, and it should get on news stations, and then digital PR should really start spinning, and everything should work in tandem for ideas to be really, really powerful. And I think I don't know. We had this Chipotle video recently with Willie Nelson singing the soundtrack, a Coldplay song, and it launched on YouTube. There was no paid media behind that on traditional networks, and it was interesting. It really caught on. There's a festival and all sorts of things around that, and there's a song was released with a component going to the Cultivate Foundation, the song that sells on iTunes. So everything must sprinkle everywhere.
I think it's also.
Oh, go ahead. As I say, you have to kind of start somewhere. It's never, at least in our case with ideas, you never really know what medium it's going to be in. You kind of try to be neutral, but you have to start with one. You just pick one and do it, and then it ends up inspiring content. And sometimes it's a content idea. Could that be a marketing campaign? Could that be an ad campaign? Because there's a lot of times it just goes both ways. So instead of trying, sometimes we all used to try to be holistic, and then sometimes that would just stop everybody from coming up with something. So choosing a medium, whether it's archaic television, 60 seconds long, or it's a content idea or an app or anything in between, we just got to start with something, and then you can see if it can do that. I think that was your question about, which is first, chicken and the egg. It's one of those. It depends on the idea, but you got to start with something.
I think also it's about how much time we have. We don't. Some Vice is a great example. I love getting a Vice fix every now and then, a little bit of that. But sometimes I spend a lot of time with the whole magazine, and sometimes I'd love to go to a creators project, whole night of an experience and everything. I think we have to kind of remember that a lot of people have different moments when they can do different things and care more or less. There's no I think this whole I'm a fan of this brand I like on Facebook. It doesn't work like that. I maybe liked it sometime, but I don't want a relationship. I want to flirt every once in a while, maybe.
You can
or you want to go and say hi every once in a while, but you don't want to be like, I'm now a Vice person. I buy everything, and everything's like, I need that for it to be cool every once in a while, or stay up on things, but I don't. It used to be brands feel like sometimes you have to own everything. You have to give it. It's more like making sure that you think. All of this seems like you think like a user. What would I do? How much would I care? And how much time would I have? So if you have something that has an idea, some people might want to go deeper, and they expect to go deeper, and they want more depth, and they want to follow the Twitter account after that, and they want to do more. But some of them just want to say, that was fun, send it to someone, or you don't even send it.
Hi. I agree.
Yeah.
All right, last question, then we'll open it up to the audience. I know this is speculatory, but what's next? And if that's too broad-ended, what's next for the campaigns that you've presented?
What's next for us?
I mean, preferably,
what do we think is next in the world?
Yeah, what's next for preferably branded content.
Whatever is next in the world, I just missed it.
Tarot cards.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, really? But I mean, we're really chasing it. I mean, just trying to. We look at entertainment and brands, and we're just really trying to put the brands sort of more upstream and have a better chance of actually creating shows, not just having to buy their way in, you know, but to really, you know, program their networks, create better content, stuff people actually want to see, do that in all different media, in all different time frames, everywhere, but just, you know, educate our brand clients to understand that there's a different kind of time frame. This isn't an advertising campaign. Things have longer lead times. You know, a campaign might wear out and we're still in development for a show, but those are the kind of the challenges that we're trying to get over. We really, you know, we just want big entertainment from brands.
To that point, there's a mindset there, I think, in being a brand. If you know, branded content sounds like I mean, brand comes from hot iron on cow, doesn't it? And you can see how it's branding something, branded content. I think it's about being a content brand.
Swedish.
You know, you have to start behaving like a content brand and think that part of what you do are what you share and what you're generous as a brand about what you do, rather than I want to put my, you know. So I think it's a mindset that is changing, and that's what's next is, I think we're going to see a lot of more content brands. Yeah. Rather than just branded content.
Brands need to let go to do that. That's the thing, is you need to let go. You can't control everything like you do in advertising. You pick showrunners, you pick creators, and you let them go, and you thematically align, and you'll integrate or act around, or, you know, but there's just, they've got to let go. It's not the same thing. You've got to let a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, I was just going to add, like, the timelines a lot of times for brands, especially some of the bigger ones at the agency, are like 9 months. We get the insights, we get the briefs. By the time we do creative development, whatever, and it's on the air or out there in the world across all these platforms, it's 9 months later. So to Ned's point, I think the idea of doing things in real time and having brands have the confidence to do that is something that's kind of bubbling up in the surface. And you look at communications, at least, you know, there used to be a URL, there used to be, you know, microsites, then there was /Facebook, and now it's hashtags. We just did our first with Gatorade, with Win From Within was a line that we just launched about a month ago. It was a hashtag with Win From Within, that's it. There was nothing else. There wasn't even a tagline, it was a hashtag. So as far as where things are going, it seems like being part of conversations is where we are now. And if brands are part of that, you're more likely to share it and watch it and all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, it's, you know, next year we'll be talking about something else, I guarantee it. I just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to you know, what the next big thing is. I do think, I agree with all the gentlemen, you know, here that it's really about storytelling, and a brand, like you said, it's about a brand telling a story to a consumer, not necessarily about their product, but telling a story that entertains them, and that's their in, and that's their entree, and that's their way to connect. And so, you know, where a company like Vice is going is to continue to look for brand partners, you know, like the Intels of the world, who are willing to think, you know, I hate to say it, outside of the box, and really willing to think about how do we entertain our consumer, how do we entertain our target audience, and not worry so much about how I sell them something, because that's going to come when you start to develop that one-to-one relationship, and you kind of emotionalize, you know, your brand within the context of something that they like to see. And then, you know, social media is an incredibly transformative, you know, kind of medium for all of what we do, because, you know, in the kind of a youth consumer, if you think about it, the big point of decision making is the friend, right? I mean, now it's really about your friend. Before it was getting on the phone and talking to your friend about something, but now it's instantaneous, and you're instantaneously chatting, or on Facebook, or you're on Twitter, and purchase decisions are beginning and ending with the conversation that happens with a friend, or a sharing with a friend. So it really changes the whole paradigm. It just, in getting back to what we all talk about here today, and what the kind of the premise is it's that content that they talk about, and then the brand can come right along with it. And, you know, hopefully they make a purchase, and we all look like we did our jobs.
All right, I think now we're going to open it up to see if anybody has questions. There's a mic they'll bring around.
Thanks a lot. It's very, very informative, and I love all your examples that you had. I have a question I'd like to know, to find out your opinion on what the future of the 30-second spot, because now that you have that engagement with the audience, and it's a two-way street, and it feels like a true, like you earn it. If you get the engagement, you earn it. That means you're really connecting the brand. What's the point of the 30-second spot that just really hammer you with information that they want to dump on you? I mean, do you see that changing in a different kind of communication?
Well, we don't not making too many anymore, but I feel like, to me, just as a consumer, not professional making stuff, I'm interested in commercials on the Super Bowl. I'm interested in like big event entertainment stuff, and otherwise I don't really. They are interruptions, and I mute them for my children if I ever see them, and you know, it's just how that's me.
I agree.
Me too.
I love ads.
45-second spots, on the other hand. Sweet.
Did anybody else have anything?
Up the back. What was that, Jeff? Do you have
Last questions? Okay, well.
What did we say that didn't say that we should have? So.
Everybody's informed.
Everybody's thinking.
Okay. Well, thank you all so
Thank
much
you.
for coming.
Thanks. Thank you.